Hello, lovely people. It's good to see you guys today. I am super excited. I have been working on my Rainbow Ombre Lonestar quilt, as you have seen, and I am super excited to pick up on the next step in the process. So to recap from our last video, we had all 8 of the diamonds finished. And then I was trying to decide between the black fabric or the silver satin fabric for the background. So I'm super excited. I did a poll on Instagram. Let me pull up the final results of the poll, where I asked people between the silver and the black to see which one they liked the most. So let me go to the poll. And okay, so here's the final results. I did 4 options for the poll on what people could vote for. One is I truly can't decide. Another is either are great. And then the other is silver or black. And so we had 9 votes for silver and 41 votes for black. So that takes the cake pretty easily. And that's kind of what I was leaning towards as well, was doing the black. That one felt, I don't know, just like the best choice. And then I also made an Instagram reel doing a poll in the comment section. And according to that poll, over 98 responses, 71% said black satin and 29% said silver satin. So yeah, that was good. Someone said the black makes the colors pop. Someone else said, I passionately hate sewing satin, so I wouldn't do either, but do the silver. We see many quilts with black backgrounds, but not silver ones, which that is true. Someone else said, use all of them, which I'm like, that's crazy. I'm not doing that. Yeah, someone else said, I kind of want to say half and half. And I said, not happening. So, yeah, so I am happy with that choice. So we are going to go ahead with the black satin fabric, which is awesome. Hello, Mara and Amanda. Amanda says, hello, I'm just propping up this iPad in front of my work laptop. Don't tell anyone. Okay, shh, I won't. Hi, Melanie. It's good to see you guys. Okay, so I still have, under my overhead camera over on the floor, I still have the quilt top laid out with the pieces, and I have, as you can see, my black satin fabric on the left, the silver on the right. I think that black is a good choice for this. And the cool thing too is I ended up ordering 3 more panels of this Rainbow Ombre fabric that we started with. I ordered a small panel and a medium panel and a large panel because I want to do this again and again at different sizes and see how the ombre takes shape or changes over the course of those different sizes. So if you want to order the fabric, I'm just pulling up the product page on honestfabric.com. I will post it in the comment section. So here is a link to that. And then also use the coupon code Carly25, and that'll give you 25% off when you go to order the panel. Linda says, I'm finally getting notifications. Yay! Woo! I'm so happy. That makes me so happy. Now, this live stream was actually scheduled. It wasn't just a live stream where I just started streaming without any warning. So I don't know if there's a difference there between the scheduled live streams and the ones that I've been doing where I'm just like, hey, everybody, and I just pop on without warning. Rusty says, morning from a chill Aussie. It's 5:30 a.m. and 1 degree Celsius. Oh my gosh, what is 1 degree Celsius in Fahrenheit? I should know this, but 1 degree Celsius to Fahrenheit. Ooh, 33 degrees. Oh my goodness. Okay, isn't Celsius 0 is freeze point, right? That would make sense because I know that 32 degrees Fahrenheit is the freezing point. Anyways, it's good to see you. I'm glad you're here at such an early morning, 5:30 in the morning. Do you normally wake up at 5:30 in the morning, or are you just waking up for my live stream? Cindy says, new here, and I've always wanted to make a Lonestar. Well, you are in the right place. Oh my gosh, that is awesome. So let me show you what the Lone Star looks like on the overhead. It's so gorgeous, guys, right? So this was all one single piece of fabric from honestfabric.com. As you can see in the comments section, I put a link to the panel that you can get. So for this quilt, I used a large size panel, and I cut each of the strips at 4 inches wide. And then I cut the 45-degree angles at 4 inches wide as well. Anyways, in the future, I will have a breakdown of what like the steps are that I made for this particular Lone Star quilt. Now, I know that there's like a bajillion different Lone Star patterns out there. So what I wanted to do with this quilt was really just understand the concept of making Lone Star quilt diamonds and getting the angles right so that I could really explore and play with Lone Stars without having a really rigid pattern to follow, because I am a very authority averse person where even when I read a pattern, I'm like, don't tell me what to do. So I like to just understand the concept so that I can apply that concept to lots of different quilts. So now that I know how to make a Lone Star quilt, I could do strips of any width, and I could do, you know, instead of doing a nine patch style diamond, I could do a 16 patch or even a 4 patch. So I really like this project because it has really taught me the fundamental concepts of a Lone Star quilt instead of memorizing the measurements of a specific Lone Star pattern. So yeah, I'm glad you're here, and I hope that this will give you some encouragement and maybe a little fire under your bum to want to make a Lone Star quilt. Oh, hi, Nate. It's good to see you. Linda, hello. Oh, it's evening where Linda is, so you must be East Coast. Where are you located? Rusty said, yes, be white when the sun comes up. I set an alarm, but regularly, randomly wake. Oh, I see. Well, I'm so glad that you're here. Okay, so I have scooted my cutting mat out from underneath, like my camera situation set up here, so that I could pull it out, because while my desk setup is decent size and my cutting table fits, I actually am going to move over to the floor to my overhead setup so that you can see really clearly when I'm cutting the fabric. So now that we have decided that we're using black satin for this Lone Star quilt, we need to actually cut out the 4 corner squares, and then we also need 2 more squares of the exact same size as the corners that we are going to cut into triangles, half square triangles. So I have my cutting mat. Let me move my AirPods. We are going to move over to, I'm just going to put this on the ground to cut everything, but maybe before I do, we will measure, because I actually have not measured my my diamond pieces to know exactly what their finished dimension is. So let me actually grab one really quick, and I'll bring it over here and we will measure it. And the other thing that I want to do at this point as well is just measure multiple blocks, multiple of my 8 diamonds. Also, can we just like appreciate the pressing on this bad boy? Come on, look how good that is. So I'm gonna want to also measure multiple of my diamond blocks just to make sure that I have consistency among my sizing, which I should, because do you guys remember when I first started this quilt and I was talking about how I had the 6 different strip sets, and instead of sewing one strip set together and then cutting it and then collating it and then sewing it together into my 9 patch, I needed to piece all of my strip sets together and then press all of my strip sets and then cut all of my strip sets at a 45 and then collate them. Like, I was trying to batch everything so that I only did the same step one time for the entire quilt. To me, logically, that makes more sense in terms of keeping things consistent. So I am not anticipating, and knock on wood, I am not anticipating that my blocks will vary in size but it's always just good to double check and measure them just to make sure. So so what I'm gonna do here, I really need to clean off my desk, you guys. I'm playing Jenga with stuff here, but okay, so I'm gonna just, all 4 of my edges of my diamond should be the same size, but I'm gonna just line up my corner with my 0 point, and then along here. Okay, so 30 inches is what that edge is. Let's see about this edge. So again, I'm just lining that up on that line. Okay, all right, this one is actually about 29 5/8, not quite 30. I would bet that maybe this side is going to be 30 because there is some kind of stretching that happened when piecing on the bias on a 45-degree line, especially when I press. Okay, so that's exactly 30. So let's see if our final one is 29 3/4 again on this edge. Yeah, 29 3/4. Okay, but can I just like toot my own horn that is pretty dang impressive for such a big block with so many seams, that I'm less than 1/4 inch off on my edges. I'm like really proud of that. Okay, so to double check this, I'm gonna go grab a different block from my 8 and measure that one as well. So I'm gonna lay that back down where it goes and grab another one. Okay, so let's measure this one as well. Hi Kim, it's good to see you. Okay, so we're going for 30 inches and we are at 29 3/4. Okay, let's check this one. That one's at 30. Oh, let me line it up a little better. But yeah, that's at 30. Okay, that one's at 30. And that one's at 30. Okay, so not bad. This is good. This is pretty, I'm gonna give myself credit for my accuracy on this. And I'm also just like looking at some of these points as well, and they're not exact, but they're pretty dang close, and I'm really proud of that too. I mean, there are some that are off, but for the most part, when I go to quilt this quilt, I'm probably not going to stitch in the ditch very often, if at all. What I will probably do is if I stitch in the ditch, I'm also going to stitch next to the ditch and do like a 1/4 inch border inside of it. I have not thought about quilting at all yet, so that's still something that's in the back of my mind. We just haven't gotten there yet. Thanks, Melanie. Melanie said, well done. So really, stitch in the ditch is probably the part that would be the trickiest with interpretive free motion quilting, just for any of those points that are off. And I think I determined that I was less than 1/8 inch off in any of the points that are supposed to be like perfectly aligned. So I'm really proud of it. I'm very happy with how things have gone so far. For someone like me who is definitely, sorry, I have like some sand in my eye. It was windy at my horseback riding lesson today, so my eye has been irritated. But I had a great lesson. Oh my gosh, my horseback riding lesson today was amazing. It was so fun. Anyways, what was I saying? Oh, I'm very proud of this quilt. I'm really happy with how it's going. Like I have mentioned before, I am a quilter first. Piecing is a means to an end to get to the quilting, but I have actually really enjoyed piecing this. So if you have ordered the fabric as well and you are making this quilt along with me, I would love to see photos and see how it's going for you. It was also a really, really good skill builder as well, of just doing a 45-degree cut and like accuracy. This was a skill builder in accuracy with piecing. And so I'm really happy about that. So yeah, it's so pretty, right? Thank you. Sandy says you should be proud of it. I am. Thank you. Linda said that's pretty good. I would be happy with that. Thank you. Me too. Okay, so let's go to the overhead camera, and I'm gonna do some floor work, crawling around on the floor. I have my cutting ruler and my 60mm Femore rotary cutter, which is like the real MVP. It's a great cutter. So let me move this, and then I will come back and grab the cutting mat and my ruler, and then we will move over to the overhead camera. So bear with me here, just 1 second. And I just need to try to grab this without spilling too much stuff. Oh, sorry about that. My mouse moved to my hot corner and my screen went to sleep. So you're all still here, right? Okay, good. YouTube says that my bandwidth is excellent. Okay, so my computer screen where I'm watching the comments is here, but I also have my laptop facing, there's my laptop right there, facing the other direction. So I will periodically check comments as we are doing this, but I won't be able to see them as well. So let's go ahead and move to the overhead. All right. Okay, so we know a couple things now. I'm gonna lay this down over here. We're gonna clean up a little bit. So we know we're not using the silver fabric anymore. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull that out of the way. It is really beautiful fabric, and I think it would be fun to quilt on. So I'm definitely gonna keep this silver fabric option in the back of my mind. Oh my gosh, you know what? Maybe I'll use it for the backing. That could be fun, because the quilting is going to show up really, really stellar on whatever backing fabric I use. So maybe I'll use this for the backing fabric. That could be really cool. And almost the quilt, it's like it'll be reversible. Okay, so got that out of the way. Okay, now I also need to make sure I keep my my diamonds in order. Although my main compass for making sure they're in order is my very, very center diamonds here. So I'm just making sure that it goes purple, pink, red, orange, yellow, green, turquoise, blue. Right? Now, I am not super, this quilt is not going to be directional with a top and a bottom edge. Like, I don't need the green to be on top or the, whatever. So I don't necessarily need to keep these laid out, but I do want to just keep them in order. So I'm just going to stack them like so that I have some space to work. And this will also help for when I go to piece the black into the corners. I'll know which pieces they go between so that they stay in order. And you guys, I'm dying to quilt this. I'm just really, really excited to get to the quilting. I like piecing, but the quilting is really what I was made for, and the part that I'm best at, and the part that I enjoy the most. That's like the trifecta, right? If you enjoy the part of the quilt making process that's the same one that you're the best at, that's like the Venn diagram to try to live in. Okay, now that I've got these stacked up, I can move them to the side for a hot minute. And just keep those in order. All right, so we know that we need 30-inch squares of black fabric. So I've got my fabric here. Now, if I fold this in half, I want to say that this is like 56 inches wide. And not 60. Yeah, so that's only like 27. And then the selvage, which is about a half an inch. Oh, my dog is at the door. You want to come in, Lola? Hi. You want to hang out with us? Okay. Let's see if I missed any comments. Linda says, I'm dying to watch you quilt it. Girl, same. I am so excited to quilt it. And before I even start quilting it, I am going to like take a photograph of the finished quilt top and then draw out like diagrams. And so it's going to be awesome. All right, so we know that we can't get 2 squares out of this. We're only going to get 1, but I do need 30 by 30. So I think the first thing that's safe to do here is cut pieces of fabric. Well, actually, okay, so here's another thing to consider. With this black satin, if I cut my fabric this way and do 30 inches and then cut the other way to do 30, it's going to give me a bunch of leftover pieces that are like 30 inches wide by maybe, I don't know, 18 or 20 inches tall. And I don't know what I'm going to do with those. However, if I would like to use this fabric and have long strips, then if I can cut this way and then cut 30 inches, I'll have a long strip that's like, you know, 25 inches tall by 120 inches long. Then I could potentially cut that in half and add a border around the quilt, around the black, which would actually be kind of nice. So if I want to use this fabric effectively, the smartest thing to do is going to be to cut a 30-inch wide strip and then chop off 30, 30, 30. And I need 6 of those, remember? So I'm going to readjust my fabric. Even though it's more work and I'm going to need to be a little bit more careful and mindful of my cutting to make sure that my fabric stays accurate, I'm going to do it that way for the sake of being as efficient as possible and reducing as much waste as possible. Not that those 30 by 26 inch pieces would be wasted, but it just would be, they would just end up getting used for a different project that I don't know what that is. And so I don't want to design projects based around trying to use up scrap fabric. I would rather just have those pieces. Okay, so let's see here. I am going to cut off my selvage. Sorry, I'm like winded just from crawling on the floor. Melanie says, I have that problem when I make a bandana. Oh, yes, like not being able to cut 2 bandanas, right? Because then they're too small. Hi, sis. Lola came to hang out with us. How you doing, baby girl? Okay, so now this black fabric is a little bit shifty, so that's something to just be a little extra careful of. But I'm just going to go ahead and cut off the selvage first. And we're really just going to get one 30 by 30 inch piece at a time. This is not going to be focused on efficiency cutting. It's going to focus on getting the pieces that we need first. Okay, so no selvage here. Okay. This is even tricky still. Let me think about this. I wish I had a 30-inch ruler, but this is only 24 inches. Okay, so, man, this is a little bit nerve-wracking. Okay, so this line is at 0. 1, yeah. So 30 inches is here. And can you guys see this okay? I know it's really little. So this part may not be as fun to watch, but bear with me. Yeah, see how close that is to almost having enough for two 30-inch pieces side by side, but that's okay. Again, we're gonna have this whole extra section along the bottom when we're done. So I am going to line up my ruler with 30 inches. And luckily I have a lot of this black fabric, so if something goes awry, it's going to be okay. Okay, so now I need to keep cutting until I get past 30 up here. Okay. All right, now I need to pull this down to 0. And up just a little bit so I can see the 30. Okay, so there's my 30-inch line. Okay. That almost sounded like it didn't quite cut all the way. My rotary cutter is great, but having a mat on the ground kind of makes a little bump, or just makes the mat not totally flat. So I'm just going to line this up again. Come on. There we go. There we go. Okay, y'all. So I now have one 30-inch square. All right, so yes, that's 30 inches. So before I cut all of these, obviously this part is not nearly very fun to watch. I am going to take this block, and during this live stream now, we're going to go ahead and get 2 of these pieces sewn together with our corner block. So I remembered that the purple and the blue will have a half triangle, but then between the blue and the turquoise, we'll have a full triangle. So I'm going to grab my pieces here. So I have my blue that's going to go here. And then I have my, wait, nope, that's wrong. That's not right. It's going to go here like that. Okay. That would have been silly to mess that up right away. Okay, so this is going to go along this edge. And then this turquoise one is going to meet down with my dark blue in the center, like so, and go up here, just like that. Okay, so that's my Y seam. Now, I'll tell you straight up, I've not done Y seams in a little while, so we're going to do this together. And this is a big enough piece that I could pin it if I want to, but honestly I don't. I'm going to wing it. So first seam I'm going to do is I'm going to fold these over, and I'm just going to do this seam from here to here. Okay, so this guy to this guy. So let's move over to the machine and take a deep breath. And, oh, sorry, something popped up on my screen. Okay. Rusty said, would that fabric rip straight along the grain well? Great question, and it would not. I have tried it before, and yeah, it wouldn't. So unfortunately, we got to do it the old school way and cut it. Okay, so I have my first seam here. Now, when I sew the seams together, I am doing my best to line up each of those, you know, the diamonds in here. And I'm going to, you know what, I'm going to pin just a couple places that are really important that they line up well. So one of the places that I need to pin is about halfway. Okay, so first of all, I need to pin the beginning one to make sure that these get started off on the right foot. Okay, so I'm going to pin right here, 1/4 inch. Okay, now I'm just starting to look at my seams where they line up, and then I'm going to pick one of these seams that's about halfway through, and I'm going to pin there as well. Okay. Then I'm going to find 2 seams later, and same thing, line those up so that those seams nest well. So odds are, if the seams that I pin line up, then the seams in between them should also line up. And so I'm going to let those fall into place by keeping every other seam lined up. And then finally, it's really important to me that my 2 points, so this is where the middle of my star is going to be. That's also very important to me that those line up as well. So I'm gonna not be as lazy as normal. And I'm also gonna pin there, doing my best to find and pin at the 1/4 inch seam. And then we could also pin this seam here too if we want. Really, you can pin as much as you need to pin in order to feel comfortable with stitching. And that's how you know you've added enough pins. Okay, and then before I swipe these off of my desk into my carpet, I'm gonna put them back where I store my pins. Okay, this is a big step. This is the next big step of the quilt. So I'm gonna go over to our quilting camera that I've got set up here. And let me actually pull my machine out a little bit. All right, here we go. Deep breath. Okay, so other thing too to consider is that, see how my seams are pressed downward? That would be a good reason to start on this side so that as I sew, my seams are going to stay pressed in the direction that I started pressing them. Okay, so I am lining up that first edge with the edge of my foot. And then as always, I like to backstitch. The only place I didn't backstitch on each of these seams was my initial strip piecing, because I knew I was going to cut those apart to create the 45-degree pieces. But other than that, I like to backstitch. I don't know, it makes sense. And the last thing that we want when we're quilting is a popped seam from the piecing. That, like, nothing gives a long arm quilter more anxiety than seeing a popped or undoing pieced seam, whether it's their own quilt or a client's quilt. So backstitching is always a good idea. It never hurts to backstitch. Like, I can't think of a time when it would ever hurt to do that. Okay. And I used to sew over my pins, and then I broke a needle, and now I don't anymore. But if you're a rebel, you do you, boo. But yeah, those pins just did a good job of keeping things in line so that there's not any shiftage as I go down those seams that I really, really want to match and come together. Okay. And this bottom corner is the very center of our star. And I really, really, really want that star to look really good and not have like misaligned points. Like, if there's anywhere in this entire quilt that I want my seams to line up, it's right in that center. So yeah. Okay, so now let's zoom out here a little bit and let's check our seams. Oh. Okay, so that looks good. Let's look at our next one here. It's a little off, but I'll take it. And the next one, not bad. Let me pull this out and I'm gonna kind of do this so that we can see. Okay, so there's our next seam. Looks pretty good. Our next seam, nice. Same there. It's like all of my seams are a teensy bit off. Oh, not that one. Look at that. That's perfect. Look at that bad boy. That's a good seam right there. But most of them, it's almost like almost all of my seams are off by like 1 stitch. So I will take it. Okay. Alrighty. So now we've got this situation. And right here is where our 30-inch square is going to go. And I'm ready. So let me go grab it. Okay, y'all, I am not a master or even like a confident intermediate Y-seam piecer. So we are going to get through this together. Why does it seem like this camera works? Let me double check camera. Oh, you didn't see any stitching? Oh my goodness. Okay, hang on. There's the overhead. Here's the main. Okay. Oh, Melanie said the ads keep interrupting. Okay, I can adjust the settings on the ads. Okay, so I hit, there's a button. I'm still learning the buttons. That says delay ads, and it now has a 10-minute timer. So I think I can shift the ads. Okay, were you able to hear me while I sewed that whole seam, but you just weren't able to see the actual sewing? Let me go back to this camera, and it's also tricky. Oh my gosh, yeah. Okay, that is so crazy because it was working just a second ago and now it is not. Okay, bear with me 1 minute. I don't know why that camera is not connecting. So there's the main camera. Here's my overhead camera, and then the quilting camera. Okay, let me do this. I'm going to restart that app. Thanks for bearing with me, you guys, because this is really important for you to be able to see what's going on. Okay, so I at least know that it is not. Rusty says, I don't get ads, just heard you talking, couldn't see you sewing, it froze on the machine. Okay, thank you, that is helpful. So it is not YouTube, it's my camera. It's like my streaming software is being silly. Okay, so here's the other thing that I'm gonna try. I don't wanna end the live stream, but I think I need to stop my stream and restart it again. I went out and come back in, but was the same. Okay, it is not on YouTube's end, it's on my end, it's my camera itself. So bear with me, just stay here. I'm gonna stop my stream from my software, but not end the stream from YouTube. And then we will pick up again because that camera is not responding. And I really want it to. So thanks for bearing with me. Okay, hang tight. If I go off and it doesn't come back on, then I will just start a new stream that is not this scheduled one, and then we'll just keep on going from there. Okay, hang tight. Okay, I think that worked. This is so crazy, but also this is very helpful for me to learn. Okay, so my quilting camera does look like it is catching it. So I'm so sorry, you guys. That is so silly. I sewed this whole seam and you didn't even see it. I was just looking through my camera lens, just talking to nothing. So okay, that's good to know that I can stop streaming and start streaming again, and it'll pick back up on the same live stream without having to end it. So that's awesome. I love that because it was my streaming software that was having the issue with connecting to my camera. So thanks, YouTube. Pat on the back for YouTube for not just canceling and stopping my live stream. So here is my quilting camera that now I can actually see stuff moving. Okay. Yeah. Okay. You guys are so great. Thank you for bearing with me because again, this, you know, technology. Okay. So let's pick up where we left off and just keep on going. So this seam is the seam that I just sewed. Now I'm going to go to my quilting camera, my sewing camera, so I can show you up close the seams that I checked to make sure that they, oh, thanks. Amanda says, your seams sounded perfect. Thank you. Oh my gosh, you guys are so nice. You seriously so sweet. Thanks for bearing with me because technical difficulties are never fun. So yeah, just I appreciate you realizing that I'm a human and human error happens. I should have checked this camera. Okay, so I'm going to go over here. Now I want to show you, and I'm going to, okay, you can see it. So this is the seam that we just sewed. And after I sewed it, I had pinned some of these together just to try to make them as accurate as possible, right? Make them line up as much as possible. And another thing that I'm noticing, ooh, like, look at that. That one looks good. Okay, let's zoom in here and check that out. See, that's a good stitch. And that one is like one stitch off, but I'll take it. I'm happy with that. Same with that one, like one stitch off, but it's okay. There was a seam on here. Oh yeah, this one. Look how good that one looks. That's the one I was pointing out when you couldn't even see what I was even talking about. But that was the one that I was stitching. Okay. All right, so now picking up where we left off, what I was saying before I realized that I was talking to nobody and you couldn't see any of the things that I was doing. I am not super skilled in Y seams. So Y seams are definitely something that is common for Lone Star quilts, or some people, what they will do to avoid doing a Y seam is they will just do, instead of one big square right here, they will do a half square triangle and attach it to each piece and then piece this whole seam together. But I did not want that. I wanted the solid piece of fabric so that with the quilting, the seam is not going to detract and it's going to be just a beautiful blank canvas square for my quilting to happen. So that being said, I'm nervous to piece this seam, but I also know that I want my seam allowance to go with the black side. Like the black is going to fold over. So let me grab my black square and we are going to tackle this Y seam together and just overcome our fears and put on our big girl pants and just do it. So I know that there are probably some tricks to this, but logically it feels like it just makes sense to piece one side and then rotate the black and line up to the other side. So that's what I'm going to try to do. Okay, Melanie said same. I had to close and come back to sync the audio. Okay. Everything's good now, yes? If your audio is still misaligned with the video, try refreshing the page. Okay. And thank you for being here. Thanks for still hanging out with me, even though I know that sometimes that stuff gets annoying. Okay, so I'm going to start with my right side facing down, right sides together, and then this is another area that I could pin as well. And I know that I need a 1/4 inch, like I need to have a 1/4 inch from my corner, and that's where I start piecing. Like I need to give myself that 1/4 inch for this Y seam corner. Okay. So actually, you know what I'm going to try? I'm going to try something like this. So I'm going to put my pieces like this so that my point is like on a diagonal. And you know what? Let me move my camera down a little bit so you can see my desk a little bit more. There. Okay. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to have, oh, ouch, I just ran over my foot with my chair. Okay. So what I'm going to do, actually, I know that this point is going to need to be here, and then this edge is going to go that way, and this edge is going to go that way. So I'm going to actually take a pin, and I'm going to put a pin in my fabric 1/4 inch down. And then I'm going to take that same pin and 1/4 inch down from my seams. And I wonder if I should press these open. Maybe we'll try open here. Then I'm also going to do 1/4 inch down like that. Right in those seams, right in there. Okay, so now I'm going to push those together on a straight diagonal down. So here's the opposite corner. See that? That straight line. So that is where I need the fabric to come together. Okay. And now I'm going to swivel like so. And do that at a 45 degree. Okay, let me pin this and then I will hold it up and show you what I've done in that spot. And now luckily, because there aren't any seams on this black fabric that need to line up with my diamond seams, I just need to pin this together. So I'm going to find the corner of this and line that up and go corner to corner there. Okay, so I've got that like so, and now I'm going to find the middle. And this black satin is a little slippery. It's got some slip to it. And so pinning is going to be definitely helpful just to keep things from sliding while I'm trying to piece this seam together. And you guys are probably like, we've done Y seams, we know how to do this. Like, I am the novice here, and you guys are probably way more skilled at this than I am. But this is part of the journey. And if you're, oh, I just dropped, oh, there it is. If you're expecting me to show off, just wait until we get to the free motion quilting, because that's where I like to show off. Okay. So now we've pinned that there. Okay, so now across this 30 inches, I have 5 pins. So let me show you the front, what that looks like. Okay, so I've got pin here. So notice how this is like, this goes up, but then this is coming down at a 45 degree. And then that pin is right where I want it to line up. And I'm only going to stitch to the pin, not the edge of the fabric, just to the pin, because then I need this little corner and this edge to swivel this way afterwards, like so. And then those two seams are going to sew together. Okay. So let's go to the quilting camera, and you can still see it. I'm going to zoom out here for a minute. Actually, let's zoom in just a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to start in this armpit. I'm going to start at where the Y seam is going to be and then work my way to the edge. Okay, so this edge we are not dealing with yet. It's this edge that we want straight. So starting here, like so. Okay, and again, I don't want to sew on this side of the pin. The pin right now is right in the seam of this seam underneath. Okay, so let me adjust my fabric a little bit and get this nice and flat. Okay, so this is what we're going for, this seam right here. So I need to make sure that this is on top. Okay, and again, I'm going to start in front of that pin. Right there. Okay, and then I am going to backstitch, but I just need to be careful not to backstitch too far. Okay, and now let's zoom out so you can see my seam down here. So now I'm just doing my best to keep this, because this fabric, like I said, it's so slippery, it's like sliding this way. And so I'm kind of pulling tight with my right hand and then just trying to keep that lined up. And I'm not pulling against the sewing machine too much. I'm still letting the feed dogs do what they do best. And then I'm also letting the pins really guide. So let me show you on the main camera here. So look over here. When I'm holding it like almost a foot away from where I'm actually sewing, so that the fabric can just fall in line with the pins. If I'm holding it up tight too much up here, then it's gonna push one fabric or the other, and that's when they shift. But I already have the pins doing their job in front of my hand, so I can use my left hand to just keep those lined up together. But I'm working back a little further and letting the feed dogs do what they need to do. Okay, so my left hand is not pushing or pulling, it's just adjusting this black fabric so that it doesn't start to slide out from underneath the colored fabric. Okay, so again, my hand is very light. And I'm basically holding behind the pin, the next pin that's coming. My right hand is behind it, so closer to me than closer, opposed to closer to the needle. Okay, and you can see, like I said, that black fabric is kind of slippery, and so I need to keep those lined up. Okay, things are looking good, I think. We'll see when I flip this seam over. Oh, see how that black is like sliding? I just have to be extra careful. And especially on this end, because the fabric underneath this black is that little eensy beensy point. And so, and I'm actually, my black looks like it's going a little bit further off the edge of the color. Oh, actually, it's not too bad. I was gonna say, if one of them needs to go off the edge of the other, hopefully it's your background fabric, because what we really, really want is for those points, our star points, to be very nice and sharp. Okay, so I'm gonna do back stitch here. And then I'm gonna actually, I don't know if I have a stiletto. I need a stiletto. I could use these little pair of scissors, but I can just keep my fabric lined up with this little scissor point so that I'm not sticking my fingers under there, but then I also am not stitching over a pin. Okay, and then I'm gonna back stitch again. I probably could have switched to black thread for this, but this is okay. It's gonna be great. Okay, so see how I have that nice edge, and then when I sew the other black piece, it's gonna come to here and it's just going to go off. Now, okay, so here's another thing I wanted to address. Oh my gosh, you're nice. Amanda said, you make it look so easy. I mean, don't speak too soon because I just haven't shown you the finished Y seam yet. That may not even be a thing that's happening. Okay, one thing that I wanted to address though here. I anticipated that my stars points would be the edge of the quilt. Now, what I don't want to happen when I finish my quilt top is I don't want my stars to have to be chopped off to square up the quilt. Like, I want to make sure that my star points are going to not be bitten into by my binding fabric. Okay, so these points right here, another reason that I started in the center of the Y seam and came out was so that if I had that little extra here, that would just give me a little bit of wiggle room to protect the point of my star by the time this is all done. Okay, so I wanted to point that out now, and I'm sure it's something that I will point out again when we get to that step in the process. I'm gonna say, okay, see what I did here? See how I'm trying really hard to protect these corners of the stars so that, like, I just don't want this to be a beautiful star, but then have the very tip of the outer point, like, cut off. That would be so sad. Which makes me think that I wonder if I should even add another strip of black that's like 4 inches wide along the entire perimeter of the quilt top, just so that I know for sure that those points are not too close to the edge of the quilt. Anyway, so that's something to think about, but I'm getting ahead of myself just a little bit because I'm not there yet, and that's okay. So, okay, so now you can see here is the seam from the back, and now I still have that pin in there, and I want to show you. I'm going to go to the sewing camera so you can see this up close. I want to show you what I'm looking at here. Okay, so there's my pin, and that's the spot that I should have started sewing to. So if I take this out, my sewing should have gone all the way to that seam, and it didn't because I started in front of it, right? So, but I also was just paranoid about sewing too far. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just grab this little corner here with my pin like that. And then I'm going to stitch down the rest of this line only until I get to my seam though. Okay. So yeah. And I can even, this is kind of probably a weird way to do it, but it's the way that I feel the most comfortable doing it, because again, I don't want to go too far. So I am going to orient it this way and go straight, but then I'm going to use my back stitch to get as far as I want to go. Okay. So about right there. Okay. So that just gave me like a little bit of extra. Okay, so see how now I've stitched all the way there? Oh, okay. Okay. So again, I'm learning this as well. But now I need to get this seam here sewn into this seam here, like this. So this corner and this corner need to line up, and then this fabric needs to pivot up like so. You said I make it look easy. Let's just see how silly this looks in about 5 seconds from now, because it might have a little dimple situation. Because y'all, I don't know how to do Y seams. I'll just say it. I'll just admit it. Y seams are always the trickiest thing, and it makes sense why people are afraid of them, because I am feeling a little bit of nervous system dysregulation just in doing this in front of people, and especially with black satin fabric that's a little bit more fray prone. Okay, so I'm going to pin about 1.5 inches away from that seam. And let's just go with this and piece this down and see what happens. Because I actually have a situation here. So let me show you what I'm looking at here. Okay, so that's where I put my pin. But notice I've got like just some wrinkle happening here. So I'm going to start right there, and I don't have a good feeling about this, but we're learning this together, and so yeah, so don't judge me too hard. You can judge. Actually, you can judge me. Actually, that's fine. That's what I'm doing. I put myself in this position. So, okay, so now I'm going to start about right there. Just get over that little hump. Okay, so now my color is on top this time, but my seams are going upwards. So I prefer my color on top so that I can manage those seams. And I didn't pin anywhere on this edge. So I'm curious to see the difference, like see if I can actually just have this work without pinning or what. Okay, so with each of these seams, I'm making sure that they continue to stay in the direction that they're pressed. And then I'm also just trying to keep the black fabric from shifting too much. And those are staying in line. Okay, and then this time around, my color has extended further than my black. So that alone could have been a good enough reason to pin, because see how much more color I had there versus the black. So is that going to bite me in the butt later? I don't know. Right? Because if I follow this line, so yeah, I may end up needing to unpick this, but let's flip this over and moment of truth, see how bad our Y seam looks. Okay, yeah, so see how I got a nipple there, or like it's a whole situation, right? So I think that when I had added that extra stitching, I probably didn't need to or shouldn't have. So let's lay this out flat and evaluate. And maybe I'm like, okay, the satin fabric was a bad idea, but it is so pretty, you guys. It's so pretty when it's done. But I could also not do the squares, and I could do the half square triangle, and that would make it easier. Okay, so now as I lay this out, I mean, there is a pretty significant wrinkle there. Like if I tried to smooth this out flat. Amanda, are you feeling like you spoke too soon when you said that I made it look easy? So if I were to press this that direction, there's definitely some kind of extra, and I haven't pressed this seam either, so maybe that would have helped as well. But if I were to press the seams in the other direction, that would, the thing that's hard about that is it forces the black to fold over 2 times in that Y seam, which actually with this black fabric may not be the worst thing in the world because it's pretty thin and malleable. Like, maybe not thin, but it is very flexible. And so if I fold my seam the opposite way and kind of finger press it, would that be bad? So Rusty says, no, Amanda, it's not your fault at all. Amanda said, I'm sorry. It is totally not your fault. I was going to do the exact same amount of skill, whether or not you said that. So don't worry about it. Rusty said, if you stop 1/2 inch from the end on the diamond seam, you can then see the other seams and then finish the original seam. Okay, so yes, what you're saying makes perfect sense. So remember how when I did that first edge, I went back and sewed more? I think that was where I went wrong. I think that was too much. Now, the thing that sucks about Y seams too is that there's like a finite amount of times to unpick them before you start to fray your fabric. So I guess I have 2 options here. I can either unpick it and try again right now, or I can set it aside and try again with a brand new piece, although that means I need to cut another 30-inch square, which was kind of boring, and I don't want to make you guys sit through it because you're like, my time is valuable. Can't you be prepared and do step outs? I agree. So I'm going to unpick this and we're going to try again. And even if my black fabric starts to seem like it's frayed a little bit, I can always just rotate it and use the other edge that I haven't yet sewn and restitch it that way. Let me grab my smaller scissors. So it is all good. Again, like this is, I would say, like I said, the Lone Star quilt for me, I've made a few of them now, like less than 5, but more than 3, I think. Definitely less than 5. The Lone Star quilt is a skill builder for me, especially. It's not the most entry-level piecing techniques. You're just picking. Did I say unpicking? Did I say I need to unpick it? Sorry, Melanie. I know that's your pet peeve when people say unpicking. We are unsewing. I am unsewing these stitches. There we go. Did I get that? Almost. We are not unpicking. I'm seam ripping. Thank you, Melanie. I appreciate you calling me out on that. And I know that that's a pet peeve of yours. There we go. Now I got it. I get hesitant to just like snip and rip. Like some people, when they seam rip, they'll just like grab it and yank it. And I'm just like, oh, that makes me nervous. So maybe if I was just using regular quilting cotton on not a bias stitch, then that would be fine. Reverse sewing. Linda said I'm reverse sewing. Yep. I'm just, you know, here I am like pretending to be a professional and then showing you in real time that I suck at Y seams. So we're doing this together, and you know, there's probably a bajillion great Y seam tutorials out there. But I'm showing you the real deal nitty-gritty part, you know? Like, who watches a tutorial and then gets it perfect on the first try? Not me. But I usually don't show people those first tries. So you guys are lucky that you're seeing this. I don't know. Now I'm just talking to hear my voice. But this is gonna be an amazing quilt. Again, like I said, and here, okay, here's the main motivator for me to pull out my stitches and re-sew this seam is because I am also the long arm quilter, right? I'm the piecer and the quilter in this case. And I know that as annoying as it is to pick out stitches and re-sew certain areas. Man, that's a long freaking seam. My future self, quilter Carly, is going to thank piecing Carly for taking the time to make it as good as possible in order to fulfill whatever the quilting diagram is that I want to do. That's another thing I'm trying to decide, and we're actually starting to approach that. So I would love to know y'all's thoughts. Should I quilt this quilt interpretively or do an edge to edge? I feel like I already know what you're going to say, but I want to start asking. Or actually, you know what? Here's a better question. Should I quilt this quilt as a functional quilt or as a wall hanging? Should I make this quilt one that is quilted so densely and has a backing fabric that it wouldn't really make sense to snuggle with it, but it would look stellar on a wall? Or should I quilt it in a way that it's still gorgeous quilting, because get that straight, like for sure it's gonna be divine quilting, but should I quilt it in a way that it could be very snuggly still? So like, let me show you this quilt that's on the ground next to me, next to my desk. So this is another Lonestar quilt that I quilted, and it's actually a panel from Honest Fabric. It's for a class that I taught a couple of years ago on Lonestar quilting, called Lonestar Border Bliss. Okay. And let me show you the backing of this quilt. So this one is quilted very densely, but I used like the softest, most fluffy backing that you ever did see. And so it's still like a super, super, super snuggly quilt, even though I quilted quite a bit. Like, look how dense these pebbles are in the quilting. But it like doesn't matter because the backing is so soft and fluffy that this quilt still is just super warm and comfy and like great for watching a movie, even though I quilted it just very, very densely. Like little pebbles in the middle. Like there's a lot going on with the quilting of this quilt. And if it were intended to be a wall hanging, there would have been no reason to put the fleece blanket on it. But I intended to use it and, you know, snuggle with it. But if I were to quilt super densely for it to hang on a wall, then I could really do something pretty lightweight on the back for the backing, like that silver satin that we almost used for the background fabric. And it would drape really nicely, but also like hang flat, and I could quilt it very, very densely without worrying that it is going to be too heavy. Okay, so I unpicked this seam, and I need to re-piece this seam, but I need to get a little bit more organized before I do it. Like I said, I didn't pin my pieces at all, and I think I pulled in too much of the black fabric with this other seam that I already pieced. It's so weird because I can't like lay it flat. It's like I have to drape this into place. So now the goal here is to not catch any of that previous area but I do need to line this up. Okay. Oh, you know what else? I think I didn't go down far enough. Okay, that explains what's happening here. Okay, I'm going to actually unpick a little bit of this seam too, because I didn't do a full 1/4 inch seam where those points line up. It's almost like, I wonder if I could, okay, I'm gonna snip these little back stitches. That's the other tricky part of pulling these stitches out, is that I did back stitch right here. And so now I'm cutting out twice the stitches and just trying to not pull too hard. There we go. There we go. Okay. So see that? So I've unstitched like an inch away from where these points do line up. And I am just going to resituate this fabric so that it goes lower and actually goes down a full 1/4 inch. It's like I wasn't pulling in enough of the colored fabric. So I need to go here. Okay. Take 2. We're gonna get this, you guys, I promise. I think I promise. Okay, so let me show you what I've done. Linda says, I've only ever made one Lone Star quilt many years ago when I first got my long arm, and I had no desire to make another one, mainly because of the Y seams. Yeah, I get it. Amanda says, I've never made a Lone Star quilt before, and I've been enjoying this whole series. I'm getting very inspired. Well, good. I hope I don't ruin it after today. We'll see. Rusty says, I've done a couple years ago and doing a jelly roll one right now. That is awesome. Okay, so let me show you up close what I did. So I unpicked to here, and then I pinned down, and you can see from the back of this, hopefully you can see, that I went a 1/4 inch down and even more than a 1/4 inch away from that seam, from that center seam. You know what? And another thing that I'm just noticing, now that I look at this, it looks like I didn't give myself quite enough of the black in this direction, because it's not quite overlapping by a 1/4 inch, but we're gonna go ahead and sew it and just try. Okay. All right, so like I wish, you know what would be really nice? Okay, I'm gonna try something. This might go bad, so brace yourself. But I almost wonder if I go from the colored side, if I can do a continuous seam. Maybe I'm being stupid, you guys. Tell me if I'm being stupid. It won't hurt my feelings, because like I said, I put myself in this position to be on camera. But I almost wonder if I can like pivot this Y seam in real time. Like, do you think people piece Y seams all in one continuous stitch? Like, we go here to this guy, or is it going to like straighten out my seam in a bad way, in a not good way? So now if I can grab this black and start to pull some of that slack from over here, then maybe, just maybe. Oh, I sewed over my pin. I did what I said I don't do anymore. But maybe I can use my needle as my pin. So now I know that I need this black piece to go this direction. See, that's what's hard. It's like I'm not grabbing enough. You guys, I feel like such an imposter right now, to be honest. Like, if I can just speak my truth. like here I am live streaming, asking for y'all's attention. Okay. This is not, I don't think this is going to work, but in my mind, it made sense. Let me cut my thread. In my mind, it made sense to be able to pivot this direction. Okay. So like I was saying, I feel like an imposter because I call myself a professional quilter, but I'm choosing to do something on camera that I am not a professional at and asking y'all to pay attention to it. Anyways, so thanks for being here. And just, I don't know, maybe if I say it out loud, it will just acknowledge that I realize, like, I don't want anyone out there being like, this woman calls herself a professional, but look at her struggle over a Y seam. She doesn't even know what she, you know, all these voices in my head are making me feel very self-conscious. So, and in horseback riding lessons, my instructor says that when you're having anxiety, what you need to do is something called name it to tame it. And if I can just speak the words out loud that are echoing in my head that are telling me that I'm so stupid for doing this on camera for people to see, then that's the first step in taming it. Okay, so I'm stopping here because I want to see the aftermath of this situation. So if it worked, then I'll finish sewing that seam. But if it didn't, then I don't have to pull out the stitches for that whole seam. Okay, so okay, so it's not great. It's not great. It's not my favorite stitch, but it is my least favorite stitch. And okay, using white thread also clearly is contributing to the problem. So, you guys, what should I do? Are you tired of me? Should I just end this stream and go do some research and sleep on it and then come back tomorrow and be like, okay, I now know how to do a Y seam? Because this, you know, it's just, I know there's supposed to be more of this seam pulled in there. Like if I look at the back of this, I have like a perfect 1/4 inch seam allowance with the black, but it is here that is clearly on the struggle bus where I'm not getting enough of this blue up here. And it's like I'm doing the black too far over the edge and not pulling it in enough. So unfortunately, I think the Y seams, okay, here's the thing about Y seams or a Lone Star quilt. This, not having a successful Y seam is probably so frustrating because it's so noticeable. Like if it's not working, everyone's gonna notice. Okay, now that I kind of lay this down, there's another option here. I could starch the crap out of this and then hope that I can quilt out the little extra. But I feel like if I'm gonna learn this, I'm gonna really learn it, you know? What are you guys saying in the comments? Melanie says, I wish I could be there helping you right now. You want me to just mail this to you and you can finish piecing it? Just kidding. I'm totally kidding. Rusty said, I'd unpick a few stitches of the seam between the colored diamonds to give you both edges for the black and then restitch to finish the Y seam. Okay, that makes sense to me. So I can go down a little bit more. You know what? In fact, yeah, you're right. Okay, let's start a new series here on YouTube where I go on live and I try to do things and then you have to explain to me how to do it correctly. And it's like a game that we play because that's what we're playing right now. Linda says, that's what I was going to say. Press it and quilt it out. So yes, that is definitely a viable option. I just have to decide if I'm okay with the final results and knowing that that little spot will exist. Let's see. I enjoy learning through your struggles, so thank you for sharing. Okay, you're welcome. If there's even one person that is benefiting, then that's good. Sandy said, you will have better luck if you stop sewing 1/4 to 1/2 inch before the end, like Rusty said. Yes. Okay, so that doesn't mean there's a lot of picking stitches that has to happen. Honestly, Melanie, I'm like doing my darndest to not say unpicking now, just out of respect for you. But it's hard. It's hard to not say unpick. Okay, so I am going to unstitch this seam. I'm going to pull out the stitches. I'm going to seam rip. That's a good replacement. I'm going to seam rip this area. And then, okay, so I'm unstitching between the light blue and the black. And unstitching the back stitching that I did. Maybe I should not backstitch this area for just like a hot minute until I feel like I'm skilled at this. Okay. Okay, so now I have gotten to my blue and red where those meet, this area here. And now I am going to pull out those stitches as well, because I can always come back in and sew them if there's a little hole there. But yeah, it's like when I sewed those together and backstitched, it kind of ate some of the fabric. And every time I dick with this, it's like fraying my fabric even more. So I gotta just be extra, extra careful so that I don't just like fray my fabric so badly that they lose that seam allowance. That is very important. Okay, almost got this. Reverse sewing. Yes, Rusty, reverse sewing. Let's see. Celissa Hoffman. Is that how you pronounce your name, Celissa? Seriously, the fact that you are open to learning, you will learn as much as you are teaching. That's true. You are not wrong about that. I feel like I am learning a lot, especially like, okay, here's the thing. Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm going to sneeze. Give me a second. It's coming. It's coming, I know it. So the thing about this quilt too is like, I'm calling this a sew along, not necessarily like a tutorial of me teaching you everything for this exact reason, because like, you know, I didn't come into this being like, and then I'm going to teach you how to do a Y seam. It's like, no, I'm going to make this quilt. It does require a Y seam. And so we're going to do the Y seam to the best that we can. Okay. All right. So let me show you up close what I've done. So now you can see I have unstitched between my colors. And if I pull more, it's going to come out even more. And then I have also pulled out the stitches here. So these are the 3 points that we need to come to a Y. So what I could do here now at this point, Jim says rotate the square 180 degrees to give you 2 fresh sides and no distortion. Yes, that does make sense to me. It's just keeping everything organized and in place is the trick. So I have my square here, and it probably would help if I pressed between seams, but I just want to press the whole thing when I've gotten it. Okay, so this seam is going to go here. So I'm going to fold this over like that. So it's basically making a straight line. And now I'm going to line up my blue fabric with my black fabric. So this edge is where I'm going, right? Like so. And I need to go 1/4 inch from the edge and 1/4 inch from the top. And it's almost like the pink fabric, the other colored fabric, is making like a little 45-degree dimple. Okay, and before this moves, I'm going to pin these into place. Oh, I dropped a pin on the carpet. That'll be fun later. Okay, so I pin that down, but I could actually go a little bit higher. My tension is off on my sewing machine and I need a break from troubleshooting, so I'm hanging out here to clear my mind. Oh, good. Good, I'm glad. I hope I'm not contributing to your frustration with what you're watching. I hope I'm not making your eye twitch. Melanie said, I'm up here cursing my long arm, so we all have our strong points and not so strong points. Salisa. Okay, Salisa. Nice to meet you, Salisa, and thank you. I always try to be mindful of making sure I pronounce people's names right, because there's nothing that drives me more mad than when people call me Kaylee or when they call me Carolee. I've never met a Carolee in my entire life, but some people see the word Carly and just say Carolee, and I'm like, there's no extra A. So anyways, Salisa, nice to meet you. Okay, so I've pinned on my blue fabric and my, you know what, I think that's clicking for me in my mind, because see how this is making a perfectly straight line? It's like nice and flat, because I know that my opposite diamond has to have like a ripple in it while I'm doing this. And so I can just have that ripple be a 90-degree, or I mean a straight line, 180-degree, I guess. Okay, so then I also want to just make super positive that my black fabric does not get pulled too tightly. So I'm gonna do some more pinning down here. Yes, perfect, good. All right, so I've got my pin in the corner. Okay, good. So see how now when I just lay this flat, like I'm just laying this piece on top, my black is a little bit longer than my color. See that? Like by ½ inch. I think that's good. I feel like I need that extra in my background fabric to really just preserve and take care of my colored diamonds that are like very precisely pieced, you know? So I'm gonna now pin that over here. Salisa says, I'm very new to sewing, like 2 years, and you tattooing your long arm was one of my first videos that I saw on YouTube. Oh, that's awesome. I tattooed this one too. Isn't that cool? And this thing like comes off. Look how cool that is. I just did that with a Sharpie. So that's cool. I'm glad that you saw those videos. That's fun. I really like drawing on stuff. So Salisa, what has been your favorite part of quilting so far? Or what's your favorite pattern that you've done, or your favorite quilt that you've made? What was it that initially drew you to quilting? Okay, so I have my pin on the edge, my pin in the middle, and then I'm also going to pin a few more times in between just to make sure things stay nice and flat, and so that they will lay nicely. Oh my gosh, that's a really small pin. Okay. Salisa says, I love it, the cutting. Okay, cutting fabric, that's fun. That's a great skill. I feel like there's so many quilters who are afraid of cutting fabric, or okay, at least I am. That's a part that I get nervous about, because it's always that fear of like not measuring twice and cutting once and then, you know, ruining your fabric or something like that. So That's awesome. Yeah, that's cool. I like the sound of the cutting of fabric. I love the math behind figuring out the fabric for the patterns. That's awesome. That's great. Well, quilting is very suited to you because there's so much of that, and that's cool. I'm glad that you found quilting. How did you get into quilting? Like, what was your introduction to quilting? Okay, so now let's go over here. Oops, wrong one. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now I've got some pins in here. I'm feeling better this time around. Okay, so here's our straight line. I don't have to worry about that fabric. I just need to start right where my pin is. Let's hope this is right since I just backstitched. Okay. All right, that black fabric likes to shift a little bit, so I just got to be careful with that. It's so funny. I thought that in today's live stream, we were going to finish piecing all the background fabric and getting it all, like the quilt top all sewn together. How funny that I thought that about myself when we just got one Y seam finished. But that's okay. This is such a good learning experience. Okay, so let's hope that I don't need to pull these stitches out again. But let's look, take a look at our Y seam area. Okay, so the next thing that needs to happen, okay, let's zoom out a little bit. Okay, so this feels better, guys. I mean, despite all these little crazy flyaway hairs. Like so. But see, like this is how it should feel. It should feel like this. See how like I have all 3 pieces of fabric. The seam allowance is pretty on point. Okay, so now last thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to pull this black fabric out of the way because I don't want to make a dimple. I just want it to have enough, but I need my purple and my blue fabric to be closed off again. So I'm going to sneak this seam in here, get my needle down, and then I'm just going to go right to that, right there. All right, you guys, moment of truth. Okay, let me lay this out under here so we can all see it up close so there's no hiding. Okay, so now I still have a little hole up in here. Like I could totally fit some scissors through there. So that's not great, but this seam is closed off more, which is good. Okay, so it's almost like I just need to close off all the seams just a teensy bit more. So I'm going to come back here now. So this is my Y seam, right? See, there's my 3 seams. So I can see right here, see how the black is not fully connected? So I gotta readjust, and it's like whichever piece I'm not doing, that's where it's like you have a little bubble that doesn't have to be flat. You just make sure to not stitch over that, right? So see that? See how right now I'm doing the blue and the black, and I'm really just going, I'm gonna mark this with a pin so you can really see. I'm not going to go any further than right here. That spot where that pin is going in. Okay, so I'm gonna start a little smaller seam and then work my way up there. Okay, and then again, I'm just gonna go just to that pin. Like that. Okay. Should have used black thread, you guys. Who let me keep using white thread? Okay, and then now same with the black and the pink. So I'm gonna rotate this, flip this over, put my thing down, flip it and reverse it. Okay. Here we go. Okay, so now that I'm doing my pink and my black, my blue piece is like that little dimple that I need to make sure not to stitch over. So it's like right here. Okay, guys, moment of truth, real moment of truth, unless this totally ruined it, and then we're just gonna be done for the day. Okay, here is my Y seam spot. Okay, y'all, other than like the threads that I need to clean out, right, like these just extra stitches, which I'll be able to clean out, right there, and those ones. In fact, I could cut this right now. You were getting such a good close-up bird's eye view. But it is laying much flatter. Okay. All right, y'all. Okay, so we did a Y seam, and I still couldn't explain to you in steps exactly how to do it, but that's okay. The point is that we got 1 done. I have 7 more to do, so I'm sure that by the end of that it's gonna be great. But as I look at this laid out, Melanie, clap, a round of applause, thank you. I still need to press this to really make it nice and flat. And I am going to press to the colored side. There's like little frayed threads in here. Okay. So I'm going to press to the colored side so that if and when I stitch in the ditch, it's going to be in the black and not in the color. But this looks like it lays nice and flat. I still, like I said, all 3 of the seams in my Y seam need to be pressed still, but I mean, it's not too shabby, right? Not too shabby. We got ourselves a Y seam. So I'm going to keep on practicing. I will. And you know what I'll do is I will cut the rest of my fabric pieces and get those, get my other 3 30 by 30 inch squares, then also my 4 30 by 30 half square triangle pieces for the other sides. I will get those cut, and then I will do all the Y seams except for the last one. And then during our next live stream, we will do our final Y seam. And I commit to you that it will go much more smoothly than this Y seam. But yeah, we're making progress on this quilt. I have, oh, excuse me. Okay, so I have also started thinking about what I want to do with this quilt when it's done. And I'm toying with the idea of either doing an auction or a raffle. And I haven't decided yet. So if it were an auction, it would just be like, you know, the quilt goes to the highest bidder and we start at like a minimum price. Or if we do a raffle, then what I would do is I would package up like a digital downloadable file that's like basically an organized list of steps for how to make this quilt from start to finish, including quilting diagrams on how to quilt the quilt if you want to make it yourself. But then the idea is that anyone who purchases that PDF download will be entered in to win the quilt. So that's how it's a raffle. I don't think I can call it a raffle because there's like laws about gambling and stuff. So it's not technically a raffle because everybody who purchases a ticket will get that free PDF download, or I guess not free, but like they'll get that PDF download as the thing that they are purchasing, but then buying that enters them to win. And then I'll make it that you can purchase multiple entries to win. So like if, you know, if entries are $15 a pop, but you want more chances to win, then you could do like 2 entries or whatever. And then I was thinking maybe I would do like one entry, like let's say if one entry is $5, but then you can get 5 entries for $20 or something like that. And then if that goes super well, another thing I was thinking would be cool is like figuring out a dollar amount for how much the quilt should be sold for. And then once raffle tickets are selling, any dollars above that like purchase price would be donated to a charity or something. So I don't know. I'm still mulling it over because I want it to kind of serve 2 audiences. There's the people who want the quilting diagrams because they fully intend to make this quilt themselves. But then there are others who may not even be quilters or are not interested in making the quilt themselves, but they really want the opportunity to own a Carly Porter original. And so this would be one of the ways that they could potentially win a quilt. So anyways, I've been thinking about that. So keep that in the back of your mind if you want to own this quilt. There is definitely a possibility. Like over the 15 years that I've been quilting, I have made a lot of quilts and I've given a lot of away, but I also have accumulated a lot of quilts. And I think I'm just at the point in my career where I'm ready emotionally, mentally, physically, whatever, to start parting with my quilt, especially when like I'm working on the process of documenting all of my quilts in like a master portfolio. And I feel like it'll be much easier for me to part with quilts if I know that I have really good, strong documentation on each one and like, you know, who owns them and where they end up. And I want to do like custom made tags, like metal tags that I can put on them where I can engrave on the tag like what number the quilt is in my portfolio. And then that way when they go out into the world, they are traceable, or at least whoever owns the quilt or finds the quilt or whatever can go to my website and find information on that particular quilt based on its like ID number. So anyways, so yeah, so thank you for hanging out with me today. Rusty said, will you schedule the next video or spontaneously appear? I think I will schedule it. Even if I only, like, I feel like this one being scheduled was great. I feel like there's more people watching this one than the other ones that I've just done spontaneously. And I will do my best to start scheduling further and further out so that more people can prepare to watch it live. So yeah. So as long as you are subscribed to my channel and you have notifications turned on, I think that even when I schedule a live stream, when I schedule it, it should send you a notification that it is going to happen. But then also just make sure that you get onto my email newsletter list. You can do that by going to carlyporter.com. In fact, I can just post a link to the easiest spot to jump onto my email newsletter list. Because I am hoping that I can start to get into a better groove of announcing those dates on my newsletter so that it's not just YouTube that people are seeing it. So make sure you jump on my email newsletter list if you're not already. So go to that link that I just put in the comments. It's just carlyporter.com/about/contact. So yeah, and then my kids are starting school at the end of August, and so I will have dedicated times that I can do live streams, so it will be more and more consistent. Oh, Kim says, yes, I was notified you would be going live in so many minutes. Okay, perfect. That is great. So yeah, I will try to schedule more live streams instead of just doing them spontaneously. The spontaneity was mostly because I'm figuring out how live streaming functions on YouTube, as well as like monetization with YouTube. So I've been figuring that out as well. Oh yeah, so my kids are starting school in the fall, and right now my youngest will be in preschool at least on Monday and Wednesday mornings. And so I think those might become my live stream days, or if I do a live stream, it'll be a Monday mid-morning or a Wednesday mid-morning. But yeah, Rusty says, yes, I got their schedule for my own time zone, which was good. Perfect. Okay, amazing. All right, well, we are just about at the 2-hour mark for this live stream, which is awesome, and I had a great time. I hope you guys did too. Thanks for bearing with me with the technical difficulties and with the friggin' Y-seam difficulties. But yeah, we're learning together, we're growing together, and it is just fun to hang out and do some sewing. So thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, happy quilting. Okay, I'll see y'all later. Bye.